The Minnesota Wild, a team that doesn't get talked about very often. Kind of like Columbus, one of those expansion teams that are there, but they're never really deep into the mix, and they kind of get overshadowed a little bit by other teams in their division and other teams in general, so they don't get talked about that much. That doesn't mean that there's not good things about the team. That doesn't mean that they don't deserve to be talked about enough. Maybe they're just in a different location, not near a huge hockey market. Well, it's kind of weird because if you look at all the states in America, Minnesota is a huge hockey market. So I'm going to tell you the 5 things that I like about the Minnesota Wild, starting with number 1, the Canadian state, Minnesota. You have New York, it's a pretty big hockey state. You have Michigan, pretty big hockey state. Maine is another pretty big hockey state. Minnesota is, for me, is just kind of on that other level. They're the most Canadian state, if you will. If Canada had to choose a specific state to be most like them, or to say which state is most like us as a Canadian, I would say Minnesota. It's cold. The climate's generally the same. It is actually literally close to Canada. We have kind of the same accents. The typical Canadian accent is kind of similar to the Minnesotan accent. What do people in Minnesota call themselves? It's just this state that kind of lives and breathes hockey, and it always has, and it produces some amazing players. I'm so happy that they have an NHL team because they deserve it, because the Minnesota North Stars went away, and then the Wild came back, and they have an amazing fan base, and it's a state I've never been to. It's a state I can't wait to visit. And to me, it is the Canadian state. It is the hockey state of America. You can debate that in the comments and tell me that I'm wrong, and that's okay. It is a subjective opinion. Minnesota is the biggest hockey state in America. It is the Canadian state. Number 2, logo. And if you've been watching this series for a while, then you'll know sometimes they talk about jerseys a lot. Sometimes they talk about logos and colors. It's not going to be any different here. I'm an aesthetic person. I like to look at things. I like to look at pretty things and jerseys and whatnot. And for me, the Minnesota Wild have one of the best logos in professional sports, period. Not just hockey, professional sports. This logo is amazing. I've always loved this logo. Even some secondary logos that they use, I've always been really, really impressed with what they've come up with. Even some jerseys, jersey-wise. Oh, I'm backwards. Like this jersey here in the corner, I love that jersey. That jersey is amazing. It's specifically the patch that's on the arm. I know you can't see it in the video. And then over here, there's a patch on that jersey that's awesome. And then this one here, look at that patch. That's awesome. Like the logos that they design are top-notch, top 5 in the NHL. I really like what they do. I can't wait for Minnesota to come out with a new jersey. Super excited to see that. Super excited to see the logo. I don't know what it will look like. I have a feeling it's going to be pretty different than just this normal logo. I have a feeling we're going to get something quite different. So let's keep our eye out on that in the coming. I don't really know when it's coming, but as far as release date, but I don't want to make a prediction because I'll look wrong. So let's just say that I'm excited to see any new jersey that Minnesota comes out with. Number 3, Chris Stewart. Oh, this is kind of an odd one. Chris Stewart doesn't even play for Minnesota anymore. What does that have to do with me liking something about Minnesota when that player doesn't even play for Minnesota anymore? Well, rewind 2 years. Actually, it was almost maybe 3 years ago. Chris Stewart did something really special for a fan who followed this channel, and they told me about it. And I always thought that was really cool. And because of that, I started to follow Chris Stewart a little bit more. I watched more Minnesota games. I watched him on the ice a little bit more. I followed his career. But because of that, and because I started to watch Minnesota more, I kind of started to like them more. And so my exposure increased of Minnesota, and my like of Minnesota increased. And I mean, it's kind of silly for that to be one of my reasons, since that player doesn't even play on Minnesota anymore, but he is one of the reasons that I started watching Minnesota more than I usually did. So he has to be on my list. And I know Minnesota has other players who do amazing things for fans. That instance was just specific to me because a fan told me about it. So yeah, Chris Stewart and the Minnesota Wild, good job. Number 4, Mikko Koivu. I'm picking another player here. It's an easy one for me. It's got to be on the list. If you followed me for any amount of time on the main channel Post to Post, or whether it was on here on More Post to Post, you'll know that my all-time favorite player is Mikko Koivu, Mikko's brother. He played for the Montreal Canadiens most of his career, then he went to Anaheim and retired there. But Mikko Koivu was so far above and beyond any other player that I've ever liked. And because of that, I started to watch his brother, Mikko Koivu. I thought it was awesome that my favorite player also had a brother that played hockey. And it seemed like Mikko Koivu was so young back then. I don't know, he seemed so much younger at the time than Saku. And obviously he is younger, but if you look at Mikko Koivu now, Mikko Koivu is a veteran in the NHL. Where has time gone? But Mikko Koivu is an incredible captain. I really, really like him. I like his physicality. I like that he doesn't put up 100 points a season. He's a grinder. He'll do the tough jobs. He'll motivate. He's calm. He's collected most of the time. He'll play physical. I just really like Mikko Koivu, half because of Mikko Koivu and half just because Mikko Koivu is the type of player that I generally cheer for, his style of play. So he's got to be on my list. The arena and Jumbotron. Whether you call it a Jumbotron or a scoreboard or a score clock or whatever, the big giant freaking TV thing that hangs in the middle of the arena that looks amazing. That's what I'm talking about. I call it the Jumbotron. Maybe you call it something else. But the one in Minnesota, first of all, if you haven't seen it, after this video, go to Google and look up Minnesota Wild Jumbotron or whatever it is, and you will see this amazing, huge thing with some decals on it and some trees and all the stuff. It's awesome. I love it. It's one of the nicest ones in the NHL. It's got to be on my list. It's an easy one for me. All right, that wraps up my list. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you aren't subscribed, I hope you can go down and hit the subscribe button. Share this video with a fellow Minnesota Wild fan, or just in general, share the channel, because there's all kinds of other videos on this channel about other teams, about other topics, geography trivia, all kinds of stuff, World War II trivia, music trivia, all kinds of stuff on this channel. And I'd love it if you could share this channel along. And I'm really trying to increase the subscribers to this channel. So thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you're having a good day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Adios.